Gentlemen, welcome back to Andy Day FM. And as you can see, we are sat at the world rankings, looking at some of the top countries that are ranked up here. So Argentina, France, Brazil, England currently sitting in fourth. But I am not worried and I'm not bothered about looking at these nations just yet, not the high ones. I am looking at the nations all the way down here, and two in specific. We're going to go way past the 100 mark, past the 150 mark, past the 200 mark, and here are our two countries. And we are going to be looking at the U.S. Virgin Islands and the British Virgin Islands, two rival nations in North America, divided by one, separated even by one spot in the world rankings. Now, what I am imposing is that we have a race with these two nations of North America, and that is a race to see who can get to the top the quickest. Now, both, as we've already said, both countries, the U.S. Virgin Islands and the British Islands, are North American. So, this is what my plan is that we have changed a few bits and pieces. So we have changed, like we did in the San Marino episode, we have changed the generated players youth rating, and we've pushed that up to 200. And it isn't just the US Virgin Islands, it is also the British Virgin Islands, and I'll show you that right here just so you can all see it. There it is. So we've increased the level of generated players youth rating up to 200. So that means every single season we are going to see some of the world's best youth players coming through the ranks of the British Virgin Islands and US Virgin Islands. Now you're probably wondering as well, what have I done with the league? So we're going to take a quick look at the league. We are looking at the BVI Premier League first, where we've got 10 teams in the league. We've got the Islanders, we've got Lionheart, Old Madrid, One Love, Panthers, Positive FC, Rebels, Sugar Boys, Virgin Gorda, and Wolves. Is that supposed to be Wolves or Warriors? We'll go with Wolves. Now, what we've also done with this as well, for each team in the league, we have changed a few bits and pieces too. So the reputation for one has gone way up to 10,000, and this isn't just the one team in the one country, it is all teams in both countries. And we've done nothing with finances. We've left that alone. We haven't touched any transfer clauses, but we have upgraded their facilities. And you're probably wondering, well, isn't this going to have an adverse effect on their bank balance? Hopefully, I'm keeping my fingers crossed over the next, maybe the first 2 years, 3 years, where we first see our first crop of players come through from the youth academy. They will be swept away by some of the bigger boys in the world, some of the bigger names in the world, the Real Madrids, the Manchester Cities, the PSGs. Now, we haven't just done this for the British Virgin Islands. We did say that we have done this for both countries. So just to show you as well, we'll just pick on the one nation here. We'll actually have a look at the league as well before we look into that. So we've actually got 9 teams in the US Virgin Islands League, and they are the Buccaneers, the Hayton Victory, the La Raza, New Vibes, Positive Vibes, quite a derby there, the Ramex, Togetherness, the UWS Upsetters, and the Weighty Kubuli. And just to show you, we'll just click on the Buccaneers, and you can see there. So it's the same as the teams from the British Virgin Islands. The reputation and the morale actually has gone up significantly, and each team in their respective league has now got an upgraded training facility as well as youth facility too. So the idea being, I'm not expecting to see much in the first couple of years, maybe 1 or 2 youth players coming through the ranks who are the next golden generation for both countries. But as it says in the title, I would like to see who can who can race at the world ranking the quickest, and who possibly who can hit maybe in the top 20s, maybe even the top 10s of the world ranking. Right, we'll jump ahead 5 years. I'm not going to bother with 1 year, 2 year. We're going to go straight ahead. We're going to go 5 years, and we're going to come back on the third. Oh, actually, you know what? We'll come back on the 30th of August. And just to let you know, both of these countries, if I'm not mistaken, will be coming up against each other at some point, as both are playing in the North American Nations League as well. So this is a good opportunity for both of these teams to get further into the Nations League as well as possibly the World Cup. Who knows? Right, we'll be back in just a second. 5 years ahead, and the first port of call we're going to look at are the British Virgin Islands, and that's quite a jump considering where they were to begin with. I think they were 207th in the world. That's quite some jump. Now, why has that happened for? So let's have a look. First things first, probably a few standout players that might have come through the ranks. Just have a look at the potential ability. So the highest player with the highest potential ability, well, the player with the highest potential ability at the minute is a goalkeeper called Sean Pearson, and there's probably not actually much to look at. So the question being, will he move on to bigger and better things? So the British Virgin Islands also have a 17-year-old striker with 171 potential ability. That's not actually bad going. That's what I'd say definitely Premier League standard, to say the least. Player with the highest amount of caps at the minute is a 30-year-old Sean Richardson, who's actually playing his football over in Saudi Arabia at the minute. So it's, where did he start? Oh no, I need to look at the player, don't I? So where did he start to begin with? So it was one Caribbean, and Al Tawoon signed him on a free. He's made a total amount of 36 appearances at a minute. 38 appearances at a minute in during his time over in Saudi Arabia. So that's actually not bad going. But what happened in this case? So let's have a look at the schedule. We'll go back to where it all first began. And we actually didn't start that badly with the North American Nations League winning 2-0 and 2-1 against Aruba and the Cayman Islands. 2024 saw us up against some strong opposition in Suriname, Guyana, and Bermuda, but picking up a big result against Bonaire with a 6-0 win. Sean Richardson actually picking up a hat-trick in that game before beating Bermuda 4-0, as well with a 2-1 win against Bonaire and St Kitts and Nevis. Also, picking up back-to-back victories, 3-0 victories against Turks and Caicos Islands. So 2024, 10 games, 4 losses, 6 wins. That's not bad going. So on to the World Cup qualifiers of the North America 2025. A big result here against Aruba in front of 3,000 spectators. It looks like Sean Richardson is actually definitely a decent striker at this level. Also playing up against, I didn't see this, the Gold Cup playoff semi-final, losing to Trinidad and Tobago 2-1. So only signs of good things to come, I hope. Picking up results though in the World Cup qualifiers against Guyana, Aruba, Panama, and Honduras. So again, I mentioned about that 7-0 result. Not actually bad going. However, losing out to Panama, Costa Rica, and a home game against Honduras, but picking up a draw against Costa Rica, so that's not a bad year. Well, 2026, get your words out. Saw us undefeated actually in a North American Nations League Division B, picking up all wins against Dominica, St Kitts and Nevis, and Barbados, with the highest win coming at home against Dominica, with, there's that name again, Sean Richardson, providing the goods there for us, for the country at least. So you can kind of understand now why the British Virgin Islands are actually 114th in the world, because and so far it's actually been quite a successful start to the save. But look at this. The Gold Cup in Group B, we were up against Haiti, Honduras, and USA. And I've only just spotted the USA result, but picking up a 3-0 win against Haiti. 2-0 win against Honduras. A surprising 2-1 win against the USA. That is a very, very good result. Before beating Panama 1-0 in the Gold Cup quarterfinals, but losing out to Mexico 3-0. So, considering as to where we were a few seasons ago or a few years back, that's actually a very, very good start for the British Virgin Islands. We picked up a very, very good set of results against Suriname, Curaçao, Trinidad and Tobago, and also Curaçao at home before losing out having back to back losses against Jamaica 1-0 and 3-0. So 2027 was actually quite a rather successful year. I would probably say, was that? Oh yeah, it was we actually lost to Jamaica in the quarterfinals over 2 legs. And this is where we are up to now. So we're just starting out our campaign against in the World Cup qualifiers for 2028. We actually lost to Suriname in the Copa America playoff 2-0. So we'll see what happens with that. But in considering 5 years on from where we were, the British Virgin Islands actually haven't had that bad of a start. So let's look at the U.S. Virgin Islands. Are they just as well at the minute? Are they doing just as well? Uh, Not as good as the British Virgin Islands, but a good start considering again they were only one spot above the British Virgin Islands before. They're actually 158th in the world. Any notable players to mention? Ramon Jackson, who is a 19-year-old attacking uh, attacking midfielder. He plays in the middle. It's not well. Okay, make what you will of that. We'll see if any of these players do move on to bigger and better things. Mention that he's an attacking midfielder. 19 years of age, 163 potential ability, and he's already got 15 caps. So that's not actually that bad. Well, what I have noticed as well, actually, is that the US Virgin Islands, have a very, very young squad. So make what you will of that. Maybe the British Virgin Islands are actually up there because of the experienced players that they do have, and the US Virgin Islands are just waiting at the minute to unleash the power of their youth. So let's have a look. We'll go back to 2023, where it was actually an unbeaten year for the US Virgin Islands, picking up results against Dominica, Turks and Caicos Islands, and also another result against Dominica, but also drawing against Turks and Caicos 0-0. So 2024, it doesn't look that good, does it really? Losing to Belize and Puerto Rico. Losing to Belize 1-0 and drawing against Puerto Rico. Before moving on to the North American Nations League, playing up against the Dominican Republic, Trinidad and Tobago, and Aruba. Only picking up 3 wins in that group against Aruba, Dominican Republic, and Aruba again. But that's not bad going considering a game where we first started. But as you can see, it was not a very successful Gold Cup campaign like it was for the British Virgin Islands, losing all 3 games 3-0 against Suriname, Mexico, and Jamaica. That's actually quite a tough group. But what I will make a note of is the fact that we won in the Gold Cup playoff semi-final against Grenada 3-1, and also beat St. Vincent 2-0 in the Gold Cup playoff final. So that's how the US Virgin Islands got through. to the Gold Cup group stage. But based on that, there were only friendlies to play for the rest of the year before actually. I'm probably halfway through for 2026 as well, but we do move on to the North American Nations League Division B. I haven't actually seen the two islands compete against one of the yet. British Virgin Islands and the U.S Virgin Islands. They haven't played up against each other just yet. But looking at this, we beat Belize 1-0 and Belize again 2-0 before picking up 3 draws against the Dominican Republic and Guatemala before losing the away fixture to Guatemala 1-0. So, here's more of a successful successful year. Gold Cup player semi-final, a win against Guadeloupe 2-0, but actually losing out to Grenada in the final on penalties 3-2 by the looks of it. But the North American Nations League looking a lot more successful now, picking up wins against the Cayman Islands, both home and away. Grenada, again, both home and away, but only picking up a draw against St. Lucia at home before beating them 1-0 away. So that's pretty good going. And we're now up to date with the calendar year. So we're actually we drew against Cuba 2-2 and picked up a result against Dominica. But before the year's out, we're playing up against Guatemala, Antigua, and Barbuda and Suriname. So you can kind of see why the British Virgin Islands actually have a higher ranking at the minute, because they had more success within the Gold Cup. So what we're going to do, I know the U.S Virgin Islands do have a very, very young team. I'll probably say the average age of that team probably be 17, 18, pushing for 19. But is this a sign of good things to come, or will the British Virgin Islands have a crack at their own youth academy and bring some through? Very high prospects. Will we see any players moving on to other countries? Maybe now the clubs around the world will send out their scouts to both of our islands and pick up some very, very good youth prospects. We'll jump ahead then to a further 10 years now, and then we'll see what stories unfold. We won't be long. I've now gone a further 10 years into the future. It is the 31st of August 2038, and last time, 5 years ago, the British Virgin Islands were the higher ranked nation between them and the US Virgin Islands. So let's see if that is still the case. Quite significantly at the minute. So 45th in the world at the minute for the British Virgin Islands. And just before we have a look at the fixture list, or the schedule, it seems that a 23-year-old attacking midfielder, Cole Warnock, is the highest potential ability player at the minute, knocking up 184 in that potential ability, with 17 caps in a minute and a goal and assist to go. Second to him was Sean Pearson. We'll remember him from 5 years ago. The goalkeeper, still with a very good current ability, actually, at the age of 29 years of age. So the schedule. Hello. So we last left the British side in a somewhat positive manner. And it does appear that they've had quite a successful Gold Cup campaign, just losing out to Mexico in the semi-final 2-1. But they did win all of their group games against Costa Rica, Jamaica and St. Lucia 2-0, 3-0 and 2-1 before beating Haiti 2-0 in the quarterfinals. So maybe the semi-finals was just a little bit one step beyond for them. But look at the attendance. That's Ohio Stadium in the US. So, moving on from there, they had a very successful campaign, so it would seem, with the World Cup qualifiers, only drawing one, which was to the U.S. Virgin Islands, actually. So, they finally meet in a World Cup qualifying campaign, but they did also beat them at home also, so the bragging rights did go to the British before they drew against the US 1-1. Other games, though, wins against Haiti, Panama, Haiti again, and Panama, both of whom were at home. Quite a successful year. And, oh, look at that. Oh my, okay. So, the World Cup 2030, which was in Turkey, it was hosted in Turkey. They played up against the likes of Nigeria and the host nation Turkey before beating Algeria 3-2. They did draw to Nigeria and Turkey 3-1 and 1-1. But this, in a minute, could be a significant reason as to why there was such a large leap in the World Cup rankings, because they only lost out to Italy, one of the World Cup favourites, in the round of 16. Before moving on to the North American Nations League, winning all three games against Antigua and Suriname as well. Oh, actually, as well, playing Costa Rica as well. Before losing once again in the at the quarterfinal stage, 3-2 on aggregate to Jamaica. But this looks a lot more promising now, so we are starting to see a lot more Gold Cup success in regards to just how far the British are going, winning against the likes of Haiti, Dominican Republic, before losing out to the to Mexico 3-1 in the group stage, but beating Honduras in the quarters 4-0, beating Costa Rica 1 in the semi-finals before losing out to Mexico in the Gold Cup final. I would probably say that was quite a successful campaign, just not coming back with the Gold Cup, unfortunately. But on to the Nations League again. They won all 4 games against Honduras, El Salvador, Dominican Republic, and Honduras again, before losing out to Canada at the quarterfinal stage again. You remember we did lose out to Jamaica at this stage last time. So on to the Copa America playoff. We did beat the U.S. Virgin Islands again 2-1. It seems to be a lot of bragging rights moving over towards the British. Also winning against Montserrat and the Cayman Islands before the Copa America. Now, we were up against some of the very stronger sides of the competition, beating Paraguay, though, 2-1 before losing out to Argentina and US of A 3-1 and 3-0, respectively, before winning the quarterfinal stage of the Nations League against Costa Rica 3-1 on aggregate. And we actually finished as third place in the Nations League, losing out to Jamaica in the semi-final. Seemed to be a bit of a bogey nation for us, but beating the USA 2-1. So continuing with our World Cup qualifiers, we moved on to play up against Bermuda, Curacao, Mexico, and Costa Rica. And by the looks of it, we only lost 2 games. Those were against Costa Rica and Mexico. But we won the majority. So we also did play up in the Gold Cup 2033, drew to Canada, beat Suriname and Grenada 3-0 and 2-0 before definitely Jamaica do appear to be the bogey nation for us, because we lost out to them again 3-1. It seems to be some form of pattern forming there. But we were able to move into the 2034 World Cup, so we are starting to make this a regular thing as well now, where we qualify for the World Cup. But this time around, we did not win a single group phase match, losing to Algeria and Norway 2-1 and 3-1, but drawing to Brazil 0-0. So, I tell you what the pattern is: we keep losing in the quarterfinals of the Nations League. So as we beat Cuba, Bermuda, U.S. Virgin Islands again, and Bermuda once again before losing out to Costa Rica, but only on penalties. And it was quite a strong penalty shootout too, by the looks of it. So bragging rights in a minute between us, between the British and the US, do seem to be going towards the British side. And it looks like we've also lost out in another Gold Cup final, but this time we were able to get results against St. Lucia, Barbados, before drawing to Jamaica, beating Trinidad and Tobago 1-0 in the quarters, winning on penalties against Mexico, and then losing out to USA 3-0 in the final. Quite a convincing win by the looks of it. Moving forward with the Nations League, again losing out to Costa Rica at the quarterfinal stage, but picking up a win against the US Virgin Islands, so not too bad, I guess. And having quite an unsuccessful campaign once again in the Copa America. Maybe the Copa America is just one step too high for the British Virgin Islands at the minute. Losing out to Brazil 2-0, Uruguay 3-0, but picking up a draw against Canada. And by the looks of it, not having a very successful Nations League campaign in Division A. Drawing 3 of these 6 games, winning 2, and those were against Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago before losing to Costa Rica again over 2 legs. But, and there it is again, Costa Rica beating us in the Gold Cup quarterfinals, not before we picked up a win against Montserrat as well as Haiti, but losing that to Mexico before that quarterfinal knockouts. Bit unfortunate there. So, World Cup qualifying time. So within towards the end of the calendar year, we picked up 4 wins and 2 losses. Before, by the looks of it, not going any further within that World Cup phase. Losing to Italy 4-0, Uruguay 6-1, but picking up a win against Sweden. And I do believe that will be the end of it. Over to the US side then. So let's have a look at U.S Virgin Islands. Where are they in the world? 94th. So the British side at the minute are 45th. The US side are 94th. Let's have a look at some of the potential ability. Rene Suarez, the 26-year-old striker, potential ability of 180, is playing for Manchester United. That's not bad going for somebody from the US Virgin Islands. Any other notable teams to pick up on? The only one I can probably see at the minute is Benderlin Reeves, who's a 29-year-old goalkeeper playing his football at West Bromwich Albion. Miguel Snag is also a defensive midfielder, but can also play an attacking centre mid role, who's playing his football at FC Basel, and a few other 1, 2, 3 players actually playing for New York Red Bulls at the minute. So what does their schedule look like? Let's have a look. Where were we last time? We were here. It was the year before this, sorry. So, where did it go badly at some point? So actually, no. So the US side actually beat Turks and Caicos Islands, 3-0 in the playoff semi-final before beating Guadeloupe 2-0 in the Gold Cup playoff final. Moving forward towards the Gold Cup, they were up against the likes of El Salvador, Mexico, and Suriname, drawing 1, losing 1, and also beating Suriname 2-1 before losing that to the USA 4-0 at the quarterfinal stage. Looking towards the World Cup qualifiers as well, at the end of this year, we only picked up 2 wins, 3 draws, and a loss. We'll make a note of these as well, because that is a disastrous World Cup campaign. Losing 7-0 to Denmark, 4-1 to Japan, and 3-0 to Ecuador. But having a successful end to the year with the Nations League group Division B. So that's swings and roundabouts, I guess, if you want to put it that way. With the Gold Cup as well, we won on penalties against Guadeloupe in the semi-final playoff, and then beat Suriname 2-0 to go through to the Gold Cup, before losing out to Costa Rica, USA, and drawing to Barbados. So maybe this is the limit now, but at this stage, but we will certainly see moving forward. We lost out to, or the US side lost out to the British Virgin Islands 2-1 in the playoffs, and then it was a case of completing the World Cup qualifiers, losing to USA, but beating Nicaragua. And also with the Nations League, they did get promoted up to the A side, or to the A division, winning 3, losing 3. Another unsuccessful Gold Cup campaign, drawing to Barbados before losing to Jamaica and Costa Rica. So at the minute, I would probably say that the stronger of the two nations between the British and the US side would definitely be the British side, as you can quite clearly see. Within the 6 World Cup qualifying games, the US side only managed to win 1, draw 1, and lose 4. It's a little bit unfortunate. 2034 only saw us play in the Nations League, getting knocked out at the quarter-final stage against Mexico 5-1 over 2 legs, but actually I would probably say quite a high success campaign within the Gold Cup. They actually reached the semi-finals, losing to USA. Winning all 3 of their group games against Costa Rica, Bermuda, and Canada before beating Haiti at the quarter-final stage. And as mentioned, we lost out in the semi-final. Not a successful Nations League campaign neither, losing to the British Virgin Islands before losing losing to Trinidad and Tobago 2-0 and drawing 0-0. Continuing with the World Cup, they picked up a win against Guyana and a loss against Mexico. So one thing I've noticed actually is that the fact that they are stabilising themselves as a nation in the high divisions in the Nations League. So that's something to be happy about. With the next Gold Cup in 2037, the U.S. Virgin Islands lost out to Jamaica at the quarter-final stage, 2-0. They didn't beat the USA, they lost 1-0. They drew to Honduras, but they picked up a win against Guyana. And this is where we are currently up to. So what we're seeing at the minute is a lot of success, especially with the fact that they are moving up. Both nations are moving up the ranks of the world in the World Cup ranking, so that's something to be positive about. We are more successful as well in the fact that we're getting into the bigger competitions, the Gold Cup, the Copa America, and the World Cup, but we just need that little bit of an extra push. So 10 years' time, it will be the 31st of August 2048. Let's see where that leaves them both. It is now the 31st of August 2048, and I'd like to see just how well the British side are doing actually at the minute. And they have jumped up a little bit more in the world rankings, going from 45th up to 38th. So it's not bad going actually if all taken into all things considered. We went 10 years, so we last left the British side being knocked out of the World Cup in 2030, being knocked out by Italy, Uruguay, but beating Sweden in that group. And a year later, they actually got knocked out by USA in the Gold Cup quarterfinals, 2-1. And I think actually for once they've actually got past the quarterfinals of the Nations League. They beat Canada 4-0 over 2 legs. Actually, they've won it. Strangely enough, they've actually won it. They beat Mexico in the semi-finals 1-0 before beating USA on penalties in Jamaica, actually, of all places. Bit of a bogey nation, remember. They actually beat them on penalties 3-1. So congrats to the British Virgin Islands for their second trophy. Before moving on to the Copa America, drawing 2 out of their 3 games, winning against Canada and being knocked out by Argentina in the quarters. And then only to be knocked out of the Nations League on penalties by Canada. So, again, swings and roundabouts. But we do enter back into the Gold Cup where they won all 3 of their group games. One of those results actually coming up against the U.S. Virgin Islands. So, again, bragging rights going towards the British before being knocked out by Costa Rica 4-2. In extra time, but they did have a rather successful World Cup qualifiers campaign, but then it just went belly up really in the group phase where they were beaten comfortably by France, Ivory Coast, and Paraguay. So not a very good World Cup campaign over in Germany. But that's gonna be hard for the US Virgin Islands to take. 6-2 over 2 legs for the British Virgin Islands. Not very good there. But they were knocked out by Mexico in the semi-finals, but did win the third place playoff against Costa Rica. And you know what I've just noticed? We have, well, I say we, the British Virgin Islands have just won their first Gold Cup. In 2043, the inevitable has happened. They have won the Gold Cup, beating the likes of Grenada, Barbados, and Canada 3-1, 2-1, and 2-0 in the group phase before beating the US Virgin Islands on penalties. What was that? 5-3? 4-3 on penalties before beating Antigua and Barbuda 2-0 in the semi-final and taking USA to extra time and winning 5-2, with USA having a man sent off. So their first Gold Cup final, and they have won the Gold Cup. That is superb to see. And something else I've just noticed as well, the Copa America, I think this is the furthest that the British side have been in this campaign, beating Costa Rica and Colombia in the group phase before being beaten by Uruguay 2-1, beating Panama, getting smacked by Argentina 5-0, and then losing the third place playoff to Mexico. So rather intriguing to see. This year's Gold Cups of 2045, they were beaten in the quarterfinals 4-3 in extra time by Jamaica, and it's sad to see because Jamaica scored in the 121st minute to win the game, and that was before wins were secured against Barbados, St. Lucia, and Trinidad and Tobago. Rather successful campaign during the World Cup qualifiers, only losing to Costa Rica. And it's the same story really with the World Cup. But we did reach the second round of the World Cup, so I see. But that was not before we were beaten comfortably by Spain 5-1 and Ghana 2-1. But beating South Korea 5-0. So make what you will of that. So intriguing to see as well. We beat Canada in the quarterfinals of the Nations League before going on to lose the final, but not before beating Costa Rica 3-0 in the semis and then being beaten by USA 3-0. But look at this! What? Oh my! Oh, that's the British Virgin Islands' second Gold Cup win. And what a game! 7-3 against Canada. Wow. And that was with the British side being 2-0 down after 10 minutes. That's ridiculous. What a game. So that's now the second Gold Cup that the British Virgin Islands have managed to secure, and they've just been knocked out of the Copa America, drawing 2 out of their 3 games against Venezuela and Paraguay, and losing to USA. Wow, I think that's one reason as to why the British side are 38th in the world. Jump ahead of myself there. But even now, the US Virgin Islands have jumped up the world rankings quite a bit, going from mid-90s to mid-60s. And just a quick look, because I did have a sneak peek earlier. Jose Aguayo, playing his football at Sheffield United. That's not bad for a 24-year-old. That's not bad for an attacking right winger. That's pretty damn decent, actually. And he's only 24 as well, so his current ability is at 60. His potential can go up as high as 189. He'll definitely be a player to look out for. And just a quick note as well, Raymond Taylor, currently at 83 with his current ability, but can go as high as 139, so it's probably championship level, but it's not too bad for a 17-year-old. But what actually happened here then? Oh, no, we are in the right year. So, I'm kind of skipping over the Nations League a bit here. We want to look at the big competitions, and within the Gold Cup, it was 1 draw, 1 win, and 1 loss. The draw coming up against the British Virgin Islands, but the loss coming against Canada. So, wasn't too bad. I mean, considering where they've came from. But then they got beat by USA 5-2 over two legs in the quarterfinals of the Nations League. As for the World Cup, they completed it with a 4-0 win and a 2-0 win against Montserrat and Anguilla. And they also, excuse me, lost 3-1 in the Copa America playoff against Jamaica. And again, losing out to the USA 4-1 over two legs in the quarterfinals of the Nations League. Now, this is more like it now. See, the U.S. Virgin Islands competing very, very well in the Gold Cup, winning two of their three group games against Antigua and Barbuda and Panama, 3-0 and 1-0. And you remember that win for the British Virgin Islands. Well, here is the loss. And then they were beaten 3-2. Actually 2-0 up as well. That's a real shame. They lost 3-2 to the USA at the semi-final stage, and completing the year with 4 wins and 2 losses in the World Cup qualifiers before actually going to the 2042 World Cup. They might not have won a game, but they are there. They are at the World Cup. They're in Germany. They did lose 4-0 to Italy, 3-1 to Belgium, but they did pick up a point against Australia, again being 2-0 down, so they've got that comeback spirit as well to at least get themselves a point. And we mentioned earlier that the British Virgin Islands did beat the US side 6-2 over two legs. I think this was the year that they actually won the Nations League, the British side. And there it is again. So we mentioned how the British Virgin Islands won against the US side. There's the loss that knocked them out. The US side, sorry. So they beat St. Lucia and El Salvador both 3-0, drawing to Mexico. That's a pretty decent result against Mexico before losing on penalties. As for 2044, they were knocked out by Mexico in the Nations League quarterfinals, 6-1 over two legs, but actually picking up a very good result. Okay, it's against St. Kitts and Nevis, but a 7-0 win is a 7-0 win, and you would probably take that. In fact, actually 3-0 up after 9 minutes, 5-0 at half time. Granted, St. Kitts and Nevis were down to 10 men after 33 minutes, but you'll take that, won't you? You will take that. So, as for the Gold Cup in 2045, they won all 3 of their group games, beating Costa Rica, El Salvador, and Guatemala 3-2, 1-0, and 3-0 before being knocked out by Canada at the quarterfinal stage 1-0, which is they're getting better, aren't they? I mean, even on the big stages now, they're actually reaching the World Cup group stages. They're getting further in the big competitions like the Gold Cup. Yet to see them perform really well in the Copa America. But as for the Gold Cup in 2047, they were knocked out again by the British Virgin Islands on penalties, losing 4-3. They actually missed the penalty that could have kept them in it, but not before they got beat by Canada 4-0, but picking up results 2-0 and 2-1 against Barbados and Suriname. So, as well as actually beating... Did they beat the... No, they did. They knocked out the British Virgin Islands 3-2. Did they? Yes, they did. Yeah. Oh, did they? Yes, my maths is terrible. So they actually beat the British Virgin Islands 3-2 over two legs. They finally beat them to claim bragging rights, but not before they were knocked out at the semi-final stage by USA, but picking up the 3rd place playoff spot. And here is the Copa America, where it wasn't a very good campaign. So they've just been knocked out of the Copa America by Peru, Argentina, and Canada. 1-0, 2-1, and 3-2. So, yeah, I mean, the signs now that they are starting to pick up. And as you can see as well from the squad, the strongest player, Jose Aguayo, actually doing bits and pieces for his country as well. Okay, so we're going to go ahead again, but this time we're going to make a huge jump of 25 years. Now, at this point now, this is where the youth academy players are really being pushed through all of the league teams and hopefully, just hopefully, actually starting to be scouted by the big names, the Real Madrids, the Barcelonas, the Man Cities. We'll see what happens there. 25 years time. It's going to take a bit of a bit of a while. I'll see you in a little bit. And so, with a further 25 years ahead, now 50 in total, I can't see either team in the top 30, or either nation, should I say, sorry. So, just where are. Oh, there they are. So, there's the first one. There are the British Virgin Islands. They are 36th in the world, which isn't bad going, if I'm honest with you, considering where they started. They took a massive leap at the very beginning, quite early into the challenge, and there they are 36th. But where are their counterparts, the Virgin Islands? And there they are actually joint 50th with Syria, so only the 14 places between them. So let's have a look at the British Virgin Islands first. I want to jump into the history. So within the 25 years, they have won another Gold Cup in 2077, only 6 years ago, which isn't actually that bad going. 6 North American League titles. 3 of those actually come in the last 10 years. And the fourth one, most recent, come in at 9 years before that in 2064. So again, that's actually pretty decent. And the under 20s national team actually given a pretty good go of it as well. 4 North American championships since the save started. As for the team itself, actually looking very, very thin. A few of the players coming towards the end of their careers now. Even the goalkeeper, Dan Richards, having a total of 189 caps, with the next behind him, if I'm not, yeah, the next behind him being David Chambers, a 34-year-old defensive wing-back, can also play up on the left side also with 149 caps as well, which isn't actually too bad. We'll have a quick look at the fixtures very, very soon, just see how the British Virgin Islands did get to where they are in the world. But here are the U.S Virgin Islands. Quick look at the history. They won themselves 2 Gold Cups, both in 2057 and 2061. 1 North American Nations League in 2067. Was this us? This was us. They actually won a French Youth Invitation as well in 2067. So actually, 2067 was actually a pretty decent year for the U.S Virgin Islands, and a total of 3 North American under 20 championships. Again, this is looking very, very concerning for the national team at the minute. Squad's very, very, very bare. But Paul Mantas is currently showing a 192 potential ability, and he's still at 27 years of age, and he's currently playing his football at Chelsea, with a few other notable mentions. Hubert Lawrence, a 25-year-old goalkeeper, playing his football at Ajax, whilst Kevin Villa is at Everton, and not actually a bad player, actually. So he's hitting quite a high potential ability. I think he's probably hit his peak. But whilst we're here, we'll skim through a few of the results just whilst we're here. So we went back all the way. Where are we? 20, was it 2058? 2058? It's quite some time ago, actually. So, any notable mentions? Well, this one right here, the World Cup quarterfinals in 2058, being knocked out by England before winning all 3 of their group games and beating Denmark and Holland along the way. Losing out to USA in the Gold Cup final as well the year after, so not actually a bad couple of years. Losing out in the 3rd place in the Copa America third place final to Uruguay 3-0. So actually, you know what? That's not a bad go at all. And actually, we mentioned about the rivalry with the British Virgin Islands. Actually, beat the British 3-0 in the semi final before winning the Gold Cup against USA 1-0. So, well done to the U.S. Virgin Islands for beating the British and winning the Gold Cup. They did get knocked out a few years later, though, against Costa Rica 4-3 in the quarterfinals in extra time. So, before that, though, they were winning, well, they did win all three of their group games against the likes of Haiti, Honduras, and Trinidad and Tobago. They got knocked out of the Copa America in the group stage, losing two and winning one. And actually, they lost to USA in the final. Not before actually beating the British on penalties. Look at that for a penalty shootout. Imagine missing that penalty, Ian Morris, and then for Aldo Pereira to score the winner. Well, that is something that I wasn't expecting to see. The U.S. Virgin Islands actually beating Italy in a World Cup third place playoff. Not before, though, being beaten on penalties in the semi final to Denmark. They did have a pretty decent campaign leading up to it, though, in the group stage. They had a pretty relatively straightforward group, all bar Italy against Angola and Iran as well, beating Spain 3-1 in the second round. Senegal in the round of 16. I tell you what, this is some going from the U.S. Virgin Islands, beating Germany 1-0. And as we in the quarterfinals, as we mentioned, they lost on penalties before drawing 3-3. Another loss in the Gold Cup semi-final to Trinidad and Tobago this time around, and also losing in the third place platform. So again, I'd love to say, and I will say, they have actually improved somewhat. Another semi-final Gold Cup loss to Mexico. Now we do remember that they only won one Gold Cup. Rather unsuccessful World Cup campaign, though, in 2017, losing 2 out of 3 games. A notable 5-1 loss against Argentina. Not before, although not before beating Switzerland 3-2. Looks like quite a good game, actually. Good first half there, too. Gold Cup quarterfinal, lost to Mexico again 4-2. Didn't win a game in the 2072 Copa America. 4-0 loss to Costa Rica in the Gold Cup quarterfinals, and another disastrous World Cup campaign, this time only drawing to Morocco before being beaten by Spain and China. Quite interesting, that one. Gold Cup Group D, 1-1 drew, 1 lost, one did not get through to the quarterfinal stages, and they were beaten 4-1 by USA in the Copa America quarterfinals. Same similar story, really. Not really getting anywhere close to where they were a few years back, losing 3-0 to Jamaica in the quarterfinals before having another disastrous World Cup campaign. Beating Japan, though, 2-1 before losing to Ghana 3-0 and Belgium 3-2. Mexico again, I think it's becoming a bit of a bogey nation for the US Virgin Islands, getting beaten by Mexico again 1-0 in the quarterfinals of the Gold Cup, and after that only drawing 2 and losing 1 in the group stage of the Copa America. So I think it was quite a good win. I think this might be it now for the US Virgin Islands, but a very, very notable victory against Barbados in the quarterfinals of the Gold Cup in 2081, winning 7-3. That was a very, very good game there. And even just as recent as 2083, they got beat by Costa Rica in the quarterfinals of the Gold Cup. How did the British get on? We are going to start flying through these now. We'll have a look from where we left off. Just a quick one there. They got beat by Costa Rica 3-0 in this year's Gold Cup. But back all the way down to 2058. And as you can see, they were beaten by Ghana in the World Cup second round 2-0, but picking up a 3-1 win against Poland. Gold Cup semi-final lost to the U.S. Virgin Islands, but I think that was no, that wasn't the year that they won it. They lost 3-2, so bragging rights going over to the US at the minute. Nothing doing in the Copa America. One win, one draw, one loss. The win coming against the U.S. Virgin Islands. And then a loss to the Virgin Islands, which was, I think, wasn't the year that they won. But they did get beat by them 3-0 in the semi-finals. So bragging rights definitely swinging over to the US Virgin Islands before a disaster of a campaign in the World Cup 2062, losing 3-1, 2-1 and 3-2 to Turkey, Ghana and Peru. Not the best World Cup campaign. Seems to have a bit more success though in the Gold Cup. Only losing out though this time to Mexico in the semi-finals, and that was before losing one and drawing two in the Copa America, not progressing any further. There's that Gold Cup semi-final, which I think was the year that the US side did win. They lost out on penalties. There it is, that ridiculous penalty shootout. And well, actually, we got a win in the World Cup this time around against Japan, before losing to Colombia and Czechia 1-0 and 3-0. And then getting knocked out in the semi-final of the Gold Cup in 2067 to the USA side. Actually, I think that was the year that the US Virgin Islands side did win it. Copa America, nothing doing there, no further than the group stage. Again, winning 1, losing 5-0 to Brazil, and then drawing to Argentina. That is a hell of a group. So, with all due respect, that's quite a difficult group. USA beat the British side 2-1 in the Gold Cup semi-finals. Quite a successful group stage, winning all 3 of their group games before beating Jamaica 2-0 in the quarter-finals, and then getting knocked out in the semis by the USA. Actually, here we go. So the British only losing in the second round of the World Cup, but they did progress further in the group stage by beating Nigeria and Portugal before drawing to China 1-1. In the Gold Cup, it was 1 win and 2 losses, so no further progress on the group stage, unfortunately, and the same going for the Copa America in 2072. Unfortunately, got beat by Mexico. They keep popping up, don't they? Mexico and Jamaica, 2 nations that keep popping up. As well, actually, a third one being the USA, knocking them out in the latter stages of the Gold Cup competitions. And nothing in 2074. Well, I just mentioned that USA is one of those teams that seem to keep popping up and beating the British Virgin Islands. This time around, they got beat 4-1, and actually fairly similar to before, having quite a good successful group phase, beating Dominica 3-0, Canada 1-0, and Barbados 2-0. Not exactly a 7-3 result like the US Virgin Islands managed to achieve against them. Rather unsuccessful Copa America campaign, losing 2 and only beating Ecuador 1-0. And there is the Gold Cup win in 2077. Actually, they didn't lose, or actually, they didn't drop any points in that calendar year, only dropping points in the one game, and that was against Jamaica, and that was a 1-1 draw in the World Cup qualifiers. But actually, they beat Guadeloupe 3-0 in the Gold Cup group stage. They beat Haiti 3-1 and Trinidad and Tobago 2-1 before beating Canada in the quarterfinals 4-1, Costa Rica in the semis 2-1, and then getting a slight bit of revenge for the amount of losses that they've managed to suffer against the USA by beating them 3-2. And that was the 73rd minute penalty from Ron Greenwood that secured the Gold Cup win. And that was before having a very, very bad World Cup campaign against a very strong group in England, Mali, and Germany. 2-0, 3-2, and 1-0. So they seem to be getting through to a lot more major competitions now, but unfortunately, they just cannot punch through that World Cup and get any higher than what you probably think that they might do. But they did lose out in 2079 in the Gold Cup quarter-finals to USA 2-1. And then getting to another quarter-finals, this time in the Copa America, losing to Colombia 3-0. but getting a rather notable victory against Mexico 1-0 in the group stage, only dropping points against Bolivia. Not bad going. But here we are again. Successful group stage in the Gold Cup, winning all three of their games and the quarterfinals before being beaten by Mexico in front of an attendance of 102,780. Not too bad at all. And actually, that was a rather late goal for Mexico as well that pushed them through to the finals. Nothing notable in 2083, and the last year in 2083 was a loss in the semi-finals against Costa Rica. I honestly, I don't think they will be able to go any higher than what they are at the minute. That's either the British or the U.S. Virgin Islands. But I must admit, I have actually enjoyed watching this rivalry between the two nations, between British and US Virgin Islands. And if you've liked it too, please drop a like on this video. I've really thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to my next experiment. If there's anybody who you want me to have a look at nations wise, if you think, oh, these might be a good challenge, this might be a good experiment, let me know in the comment section below the video. Thanks very much for joining us, guys, and thanks so much for watching. I'll see you all again sometime soon. Bye bye for now.